My name is Marley Dillman, and my educational giant was Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet. He was born on December 10th in 1787 in Hartford, Connecticut, and he was the oldest in his family. Um, Thomas had a few breathing problems when he was younger and continued when he was older as well, but he couldn't do a lot physically, and so he was pretty determined to do well academically. And when he was 14, he took the Yale entrance exams and was able to skip his freshman year of college and went on to his sophomore level of college. And when he was done with college, he tried out a few different jobs. He started out in a law firm, and he wasn't able to continue in the law firm because of his breathing issues and the pipe smoke that kind of went on in there. He was offered a job tutoring at Yale, but again, he was not able to continue, so he resigned 2 years after that. He then went on to being a traveling salesman, and he was kind of hopeful that that might help his breathing where he is outside and he was able to travel. And so that didn't really work out either. He did that for a year, and then he decided to go back to college at the age of 26 and become a minister. And so uh, when he got his ministering license, he came home on the weekdays, and one day his brother was outside playing, and he noticed a little girl that was kind of alone and staring off into that, like staring at them, but wasn't participating in what they were doing. And so he called his brother over and asked, like, what who is this girl, like, do you know her? And his brother had told him, well, that's Alice Cogswell, and she's deaf and she can't speak. And so with a lot of determination, Thomas decided to go over there and try to communicate with her. And he took off his hat and wrote "hat" in the dirt, and he pointed to the dirt and to his hat, and she was able to understand what he was saying. And so when Alice's father got home, he was rather impressed with Thomas and the way he was teaching his daughter. And so he invited Thomas in to discuss Alice and her condition, and maybe a way of communication that might work for her. And they decided sign language would work for her. And so Dr. Cogswell and Thomas called together a group of merchants and educators and got them to send Thomas to France to learn the way that they talk with their deaf people. And when Thomas got to France, he met a man by the name of Laurent Clerc. And Laurent was a deaf person as well, and he taught Thomas to speak sign language fluently. And so for about 3 months, he was there teaching sign language, and he spoke sign language in a school in France. And by the end of his time in France, he persuaded Laurent to come back to America with him, and his dream was to open up a deaf school in America. And so they started traveling back to America, and they started raising funds for a deaf school in America. And the school was going to cost about $15,000. And when they added all the money together to see how much they had raised for this school, they had about $17,000. And so they got enough money to build this school, and so they took it back to their board, their merchants and their educators, and they said, "Hey, I want to build this school, and we have enough money for it." And so they passed it, and they said they could build the school, and the school was built April 15th, 1817, and Alice Cogswell was the first student to enroll in that deaf school, and there were 33 kids in all that were enrolled in that school. Thomas wasn't only a teacher at that school, but he also became the principal. And the school ended up getting a lot of public attention, and President Monroe visited a lot. And so that's really cool. Thomas ended up falling in love with one of his students named Sophia Fowler, and they were married during the summer of 1821. And Sophia was kind of she had a concern that if they were to have kids, her kids would be deaf as well. And Thomas reassured her that he would still love her even if that did happen. They ended up having 8 children, and they all could hear. And when his children became the age where they needed to be educated, Thomas educated his kids and some of the neighborhood kids in his home, and they did very well academically. In 1851, both Thomas and his wife Sophia got pretty sick. Sophia was able to get better and recover, and Thomas progressively got worse, and he ended up dying in September of 1851. But he left a legacy. His son Edward ended up opening a school in Washington, D.C., and it was later called, or it was like soon to be called, Gallaudet College. And so he left a legacy on many deaf people, and I really enjoyed learning about him because it's amazing that we are able to go back and remember and look at these people from history and really, really appreciate what they did for us. And I've really enjoyed doing this project, and I hope you enjoy it as well.